Hey everyone, Retire on Dividends here. Another episode to the Retire on Dividends portfolio. Again, this little series is about making my future retire on dividends account. So when all said and done, and I get to sit on the beach, as you see on this, the screen. This is an actual picture I took at the beach. I want to be able to just, go on the beach when I please, and guess what? My dividends will pay me anything I need, right? The money that I need. So eventually I'll be able to retire and live off the dividends, that are coming in. So, in this series, we're going to talk about the mid-yielders. So mid-yielders are key. They're very important to this because they're the ones that they're going to pay us a decent penny, 10 to 20% typically. But we want them to not lose capital. We want them to, basically keep the original investment, if not, go up a little. And on top of that, pay us, the 10 to 20% consistently for the rest of our lives. So that's what I'm looking for a mid-yielder. So let's get to the spreadsheet. So if this is the first episode you saw of the series, I made a couple others. I made an introduction video. I've made a REIT video, real estate investment trust video, and then I made a dividend growth investing video already. So if you guys are interested in those, feel free to go check them out. But as always, I'll just do a recap real quick. So this is what my retire on dividends portfolio will look like. I'm going to split it in, basically 25% each. 25% dividend growth, which I'll yield anywhere from 0 to 4%. Obviously, I'm not going to yield 0, but anything above 0 to 4%. And then the 25% to the REITs. These are typically anywhere from 2 to 4%. Now, for the dividend growth and the REITs, what I'm looking for is capital appreciation, along with the yield. Also, dividend growth appreciation. So I expect that out of the top two. Bottom two are a little different. Like I said, the mid-yielders, which is what this video is about, I want them to pay me 10 to 20% consistently, and I don't want to lose capital. Obviously, the high yielders, I want them to pay me a lot more, 25% plus. However, I will have an understanding that capital appreciation is not always a thing. So I need to understand that I will be able, I need to sacrifice a little to get such a massive yield. And if it's a little, and it won't hurt it enough, then it's okay in the end. But again, today is about the mid-yielders. And then real quick, based on this setup, based on this yield range, if I average, let's just say 14.26%, which is what I have currently, then if I save up 1.5 million at retirement, this is how much it would pay me, for each category, right? If I put 25% each. So the dividend growth would pay me 10,808. The REITs would pay me 15,131. This is annually, by the way. Mid-yielders, 56,747. And then the high yielders, 131,250. So obviously you see how important the high and mid-yielders are, because without them, we could not live. We cannot retire on dividends only with dividend growth in REITs. However, I don't want to completely exclude them because I cannot have all of this in high risk investments. I have to divvy it out. This is just how I feel currently. Again, I'm 41 years old. I'm still working. I plan to retire on dividends, within 10 years if all goes well, but I still have young kids at home. So my situation is a little different than all of yours, I'm sure. But yeah, so, again, I hope to have, let's say about 1.5 million, and then that'll be a $213,000 annual salary. And, it comes to $17,828 monthly. However, I would like to reinvest 25% of it and live off 75%. So in reality, I'd be living off $160,000 a year, which, Hopefully in 10 years with inflation and all that, it's still a reasonable amount to live off of, but we shall see. Obviously, 160,000 a year is 13,000 a month, 3,000 weekly, and 440 daily. So again, that's just my goal, and that's how I laid it out. And again, time will tell. I don't. It all depends. I have a 401k I can't touch till I'm 59 and a half. Well, no, I'm sorry. I can touch at 55 with the rule of 55, but unfortunately that's 14 years from now. So if I use that, then obviously I'll have to work 14 more years. But hopefully I can build up my taxable account, and other accounts to get to this goal before then. But if not, it is what it is. Then I'll have to work till 55, which brings up another conversation for another day. The 401k, what's the point? I'm not going to get into that now. I'm not going to, that's a whole nother discussion, but let's get into the mid yielders. So what I did is I took a whole bunch of different stocks that I knew yielded, within the range of 10 to 20%. I added a couple that were a little below 10%. But this is what I came up with, and we'll go through them real quick. FEPI, JEPQ, SPY-I, SVOL, QYLD, iSpy, TREZ, QQQI, USOI, HYGW, SDIV, RYLD, TLTW, and XYLD. Okay? So I have the dates they incepted, which a lot of these are pretty new. They came out last year. Some came out this year. I have the price, and then I have if it's priced at a low or a high, which is irrelevant for this video. But then the important piece is in green, okay? The expense ratio, the dividend yield, the 1-year growth rate, and the 5-year growth rate. I also added what index they trade on, sorry. All right, so if we look, let me zoom in so I can get this all in one. Yeah, the stupid headers go away every time I zoom in. All right, so let's look at FEPI. All right, FEPI has a 0.65% expense ratio, a 25% dividend yield. Their index is the FANG index, mostly, obviously, technology companies. Their 1-year growth rate without dividends, I mean, they've been around less than a year, so it's not really a good sample size to test on. But when I made this update, I think it's actually gone up since I updated this. It was 10.87%, but still very impressive with a 25% yield. JEPQ has a 0.35% expense ratio. This is the JP Morgan one. It stands for JP Morgan NASDAQ Equity Premium Income ETF. Big names. So their expense ratio is very low. Their dividend yield, however, is 7.74%. But look at their 1-year growth rate, 21.62%. I was very surprised to see that. And their 5-year growth rate, again, without dividends, 4.75%. So that is very impressive to have that, again, on a higher yielder. Even though this yield could be better. But SPY-I, 0.68%. Dividend yield, 12.03%. Very, very good. Their index is the S&P. 1-year growth rate, 4.27%, and 5-year is essentially flat, so that's pretty good. SVOL, they recently raised their expense ratio. Their new expense ratio is 1.16%. Their dividend yield, though, is 15.71%, which is really good. 1-year growth rate, 2.17%. 5-year growth rate, disappointing to see, negative 8.8%. QYLD, this is a very popular fund. There's a huge group on Reddit for QYLD, and people love this fund. However, I'm guessing a lot of people had left since these other high yielders came. But they have an expense ratio of 0.6%. Their dividend yield is 11.95%. They trade on the NASDAQ, and their 1-year growth rate is 5.36%. However, their 5-year growth rate was negative 19.9%. I did not like to see that. iSpy, actually for SVOL, when did they incept? 2021, yeah, so their 5-year was not really a 5-year. QYLD, however, was a true 5-year. So, all right, I Spy. This one's pretty new. It came out December 18th, 2023. Their expense ratio is 0.55%. Their dividend yield, 11.32%. They trade on the S&P. They don't have a 1-year or 5-year growth rate to talk about. But, yeah, I don't know. This one, I'm on the fence, honestly. They did not make my rankings because, they're so new. Honestly, I just updated their dividend yield. They didn't have a yield before because they were so new. But I may consider adding them now that I'm looking at this. QQQI, another new one. But this one's the NASDAQ. I can only handle so much NASDAQ. 0.68% expense ratio. That's all I got. USOI, this is an oil one. What's the actual name of it? So they do covered calls. So Credit Suisse X-Links crude oil covered call. This is a little, a little more diversified, but expense ratio 0.85%. Okay, I could live with that. 14.52% dividend yield. Yes, I could live with that. However, 1-year growth rate negative 12%. Yuck. Okay, it's 1 year. Big whoop. 5-year growth rate negative 83%. Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I'm not gonna bother with it. And I don't know, maybe because the current administration is like anti-oil. I don't know, but maybe it's worth revisiting next year. But right now, I just see that and I can't touch it. I just can't do it. HYGW expense ratio 0.69%, dividend yield 14.15%, index, they do bonds. 1-year and 5-year growth rate, just not good. Negative 9%, negative 15%. I mean, and then all of these, SDIV, RYLD, TLTW, XYLD, their 1-year and 5-year performance is horrible. Horrible. How long have these been around? 22, 11, 19, 22. Okay, so some of them haven't been around the full 5 years, but it's just not a good track record. So in a retirement account, I don't need this. I don't need to invest in these. I don't need that headache. So I'm going to stick with what I deem to be the safer ones. So right now, to me, FEPI is, it seems very safe. So that is one that I'm going to add. JEPQ, also, their starting yield is a little low. However, I mean, in reality, I could have added FEPI to the high yielder. However, I decided not to because, I needed a little boost in the mid yielders, and I don't think FEPI. I have a feeling FEPI could lower the dividend yield over time. It could go down to 20%, which I'd be okay with. So, that being said, I'm able to add JEPQ because of the offset and and the massive yield on FEPI. So unfortunately, both are tech heavy, which is not great, but it is what it is. And then I have SPY. This is at least the S&P 500, so I like that. And then again, their 5-year was flat. They paid 12% dividend yield. Over the last year, they actually had capital gains, so that was good. So to me, SPY is actually one of my favorites. Now, the problem is I Spy, which is a different fund. Where the heck is it? There it is. Is also the S&P. Different fund manager, though. Lower expense ratio, but no track record. So I have to keep an eye on that. If I add it, I'm kind of like just duplicating what I'm doing on SPY. But right now SPY yields better. So if they yield better and they have a track record to go by, to me it's an easy pick of SPY. It doesn't mean I'm throwing SPY out the window. Obviously there's plenty of time. I can change my mind at any point in time. But as of today, SPY is going to win. And last but not least, SVOL. So their 5-year growth is horrendous. But even though, it's not 5 years, it's in reality like 2.5 maybe. So I have to, that's a little smaller sample, so take that into consideration. However, I do like the exposure of the VIX. They short the VIX, they make money on it, and they have a 15% yield. And since I've owned them, I personally owned them for a while, few months, and I've been impressed. Consistent dividend payouts. So I'm just a fan of SVOL, and I couldn't give it up. That 5-year growth rate didn't faze me in choosing them in the retirement account. Everything else, I really thought QYLD would make it, but that 5-year, chart is just too ugly. Again, I don't care about necessarily growth, but I don't want something like that, right? Capital flat, I'm good with. A slight decrease, 1-2%, even like 8%, even though SVOL is not a full 5-year, I could live with. But 19% on QYLD, an established fund, again, NASDAQ, keep in mind the top two are, NASDAQ funds. So I don't need another NASDAQ. So that's why QYLD didn't make the cut. And then we have newer funds, TRES and QQQI. Again, it's early. They could get added later. USOI, again, I just can't. HYGW, no thanks. SDIV, no thanks. RYLD, XYLD, no thanks. And then TLTW, I'm sad to say, no. I actually own them in my taxable. So, after seeing this, I need to think about this fund. They have performed well so far for me, but I didn't realize that their appreciation was, this week. Obviously, they're involved with treasuries, so a lot interest rates and everything affect that. So you have to take that for what it is. So again, it's not going to be on my list, but it may down the road. All right, so here's the winners as we spoke of. These are what I'm adding, or these are what I did add to the portfolio. So in summary, it's going to be FEPI, which is Rex Fang, an Innovation Equity Premium ETF, JEPQ, JP Morgan NASDAQ Equity Premium Income ETF, NEO's S&P 500 High Income ETF, which is SPY-I, and then SVOL, Simplify Volatility Premium ETF. All four of them, again, I'm going to put equal allocation when I just start off. They're going to average a 0.71% expense ratio. They will average a 15.13% dividend yield. They'll average a 1-year growth rate, 9.73%, and then a 5-year growth rate of 1.7%. So essentially capital flat. But then again, I'm going to yield 15%. So the goal is to stay capital flat or slightly above with a 15% yield. And that's their job, okay? I did not include closed-end funds or business development companies. I know people in my Discord were saying, these are good options. You should look into them. I never really researched closed-end funds, to be honest, or, which I call CEF, their acronym CEFs, and then BDCs. I never really researched either one of them. I will at some point, but right now it's just not on the radar. So these are my four. These are what I'm going to add as of now. Again, it may change in time, but not anytime soon. I plan to review these once a year. If I deem necessary, I can review it sooner. But right now, these are the four that have made the cut for the mid-yielders. So I added that average of 15.13%, which will go into that bucket, averaging 14.26%. I did not do the high yielders yet. I have to work on that. I just plugged in 35, but hopefully I can even get better than that, better than a 35% for the high yielders. But we'll see. Today's video, it was focused on the mid yielders. And if you're interested in a short overview of each one, most of you already know FEPI. This is a Rex Shares fund. Basically, they're priced at $56.49. They're still small. They're only 2 million outstanding shares. Fund assets total 112 million. Here's their distributions. They only had 4 distributions so far. They actually just announced their latest one on Friday. And this is what they hold, AMD, Tesla, Google, Apple, obviously, techie stocks. So, and they sell covered calls on them. And then you have one of the most popular funds out there, JEPQ. Back in the day, JEPQ was it. JEPI and JEPQ, that was our only options for high yielders. So, JEPQ, let's see, they seek to deliver monthly distribution income and NASDAQ 100 exposure with less volatility. All right, great. Again, they just compare their yield against everything else. What else they got on their website? Their price is around $52.98. Shares outstanding, 197 million. Fund assets, 10 billion. Look at the size of this fund. 8.99% yield. So, see that? It's even higher. That's as of January 31st. I use Dividend.com. So, I assume their website's more accurate. 8.99%. .99%. All right. So if I scroll down, our new average is 15.45%. Okay, I'll take it. Anyway, sorry. What else? Portfolio, you can see what they hold. This website, it's like you click something and it scrolls right to the bottom. Here's some of their holdings. Again, all tech, same stocks as FEPI for the most part. Probably has many more though, but is what it is. How many holdings do they have? Does it say? Let's see. Number of holdings, 96. Oh, damn, that's pretty good. All right, that makes me even more excited about JEPQ. Again, JEPQ's been around. They're established. I'm happy to invest in an established company because, unfortunately, a lot of these are new, High yielding is a thing. And all these companies are coming out with, new stuff. So, anyway, SpyEye is made, Neos is the fund manager. Here's their website, distribution yield 12%. Fund seeks to distribute high monthly income generated from investing in this S&P 500. Yeah, duh. Okay, investment objectives, seek high monthly income in a tax-efficient manner. That's key. I made a video on them, to talk about that. I covered that in the prospectus. Their net assets, not quite $1 billion, but $840 million. And they came out August 30th, 2022. What else? There's a nice video you can watch. Distribution, 48 cents was the last one. Pretty consistent for this year at least. If we go to last year, pretty consistent, 47, 48 cents. That's what we like to see. If we're retired, what do we want? We want consistent dividend payments. So yeah, that's SpyEye. SFOL, it's a Simplify ETF. So as you can see, these 4 funds are diversified by fund manager. So that alone is a win. So Simplify seeks to provide investment results before fees and expenses that correspond to 1/5 to the inverse performance of the volatility index, the VIX, short-term futures index, while also seeking to mitigate extreme volatility. The fund shorts the VIX position, provides investors an optimized exposure for monetizing premium in the VIX futures market. So this is something I cannot do. Clearly, I don't even know what they're doing, but they're doing it, and they're making a lot of money. So I'm paying them 1.16%, which is very high. And they recently raised it. People were pissed. A lot of people left, but a lot of people stayed because they're such a good fund. 718 million in total assets. Distribution yield shows 15.89%. Yeah, nothing really to show you guys. Just blah, blah, blah. Too much scrolling, right? So yeah, that's pretty much it in a nutshell. Those are the funds that I chose. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. what do you consider a great mid-yielder? You know, did I pick the right four, or did I miss the boat on some of these? And don't include closed-end funds or BDCs because I know nothing about them. But yeah, let me know what you think. If you would have chose the same four, or if you have others in mind. If you think any of these are garbage, also let me know that too, and let me know why. And yeah, the next video for next week, I'll get out the high yielders. Hopefully I can finish it by then and get the content out. But yeah, this will be released Monday at 3 p.m. And we'll go from there. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button. And always, as always, this is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. This video is for fun and entertainment. Starting to lose my voice. I did way too many videos this weekend. But this is the last one, which obviously will be posted Monday. But yeah, any questions, concerns, leave it in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, again, feel free to let me know. I always enjoy those comments too. But yeah, that's all I got. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys are soon to be retired on dividends. And if you are retired on dividends, congratulations. You know, that's very impressive. And hopefully you can teach others to do the same. You know, that's the goal. You know, all we can do is, you know, just spread the knowledge, right? And then people will do what they want with it. So anyway, I'm out of here. Thank you for watching. Later.